I got 2 minutes ahead of schedule.
Good. Well, Brady will take the time. Okay, today, if you didn't know, there's going to be an election. It's not in the guide. We're going to vote on a franchise fee franchise so that OG&E can serve the proposed data center, which Brady has a lot of data on. So Brady's going to present that, and then Kimberlee Adams from OG&E will talk a little bit, and that handout on the table has quite a bit of information that's basically from both of them. Brady.
All right, we're on. All right, I'm Brady Moore. I am currently the interim city manager for the city of Stillwater. As I just, I guess, accepted or was told I'm doing this role for the second time. I am grateful to serve in this role. It is a joy for me to serve our community in this way. And, I learned a lot from a great leader when I came into the city. I came into the city government in the city manager's office in 2020. And my boss, Norman McNichol, sat me down within, the first few weeks being there, and he said he wanted to tell me about a project, and he was upset that this project that he, quote, said is going to be somewhat of a game changer for Stillwater was canceled because of the pandemic. And so I got to learn a little more about the project and the scale of it and kind of wrap my mind around the possible revenue that it could bring our community. And so as things progressed, I wanted to go through just the timeline of how this project, they started talking to the city of Stillwater in 2018. 2019, there was an extended, really intense due diligence on the utilities and looking at the project and the structure. And then when, of course, the pandemic hit in 2020, everything got tabled. At that time, I believe, Norman can correct me, I think they were looking at 12 sites. They were doing due diligence on 12 possible sites, and that we were hoping, and it was getting really close, that Stillwater was going to be chosen. Well, as time went by, about 2022, they renewed their lease on the land, or their option on the land, and we didn't really hear much from the project team. And then but they would check in occasionally. And then 2023, last summer, I found myself in the city manager's office in the interim role, and had kind of lost a lot of our good folks around us, and it was pretty empty. And I get a call of all times that, hey, the company said we've picked Stillwater. And I said, well, what do you mean you've picked Stillwater? Are we one of 12 again? I mean, we have limited resources. How many man hours we have to put on this? He's like, no, we're going. You'll be hearing from our engineering crew. We need to get everybody back together. We're coming to Stillwater. And so that was really exciting, but a little overwhelming. We started having meetings in person in December of last year, and started meeting weekly from that point. And so the project, as I go over, I'm going to go through these slides about as quick as I can. I have a lot of information to give you, and there's a lot of inaccurate information going around about data centers and about this particular project. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. Basically, the project plan objectives. The project plan is the document that establishes the tax incentive agreement for the city and the company to work together on this project. That is what we had our first public hearing at the last meeting, and we have our second public hearing coming up on November 4th at City Council. But this whole project is to facilitate new development in the city of Stillwater on land that is basically vacant and underutilized, and bringing in very minimal, if any, tax revenue right now. Of course, the project is going to bring revenues not just to the city, but to the Stillwater Public Schools, all of our taxing jurisdictions, Meridian Technology, Payne County, and the Payne County Health Department, through pilot payments. And I'll go a little bit more into detail into that in just a few minutes. And obviously, a great impact beyond the revenue is the temporary construction jobs, which number hundreds, if not over 1,000, to the permanent quality jobs that will remain in the community. A little overview of the project. It is a company that has a history of developing high-scale or high-quality, large-scale data processing campuses. One thing that I pointed out on our public hearing Monday night, one of our citizens asked some great questions. They said, "Well, how do we calculate risk? What have we done to look at the risk of the type of business that's coming in?" And one of the things that's really reassuring is that this we're dealing with a company that is the end user. There's a lot in this world of trying to increase data and data centers around the country, around the globe. There are a lot of venture groups that are building what are cheap facilities, not efficient, and they're trying to sell them off to whatever company needs that kind of data processing and will be willing to pay for it. This is the company that is a leader in this industry, that is the one developing the site and is going to be the end user for decades to come. And so that is some reassurance that we have in Stillwater. Each phase is 300,000 square feet. The data center buildings will be 300,000 square foot data centers. The minimum investment into each phase is $500 million. So we're looking at one of the largest economic development projects to hit the state of Oklahoma, over $3 billion. There's two phases. Likely, I'll go a little more into that, and that is some reassurance for the city as the phases develop. But the tax document that is looking to be approved by the city council and the taxing jurisdictions is for all 6 phases. And you got to think as they're wanting to make this type of investment in a community, they want to go ahead and take that perimeter of the total project site and go ahead and get the tax structure, the incentives for all 6 phases. But the city is only considering the first 2 phases. And I'll go a little bit more into that. This is the map of the location of the project site. For those that aren't familiar or haven't seen where this land is, on the bottom left hand of that kind of square mile section is the Armstrong facility, which recently we announced that a great new project is coming, a business that is very well funded and has a global portfolio of brands for like architectural materials and high-end construction materials in Europe. And they're a very green-based company, and they are looking to develop a new roofing material in that facility. And so that's going to bring hundreds of jobs in. So that's a little side note about a great boost to our economy for that project. So the land that sits there that's highlighted or surrounded in green is the land that sits north of the railway, east of Perkins Road, west of Jardo, and south of Richmond. And then on the bottom right-hand corner of that mile section is our Stillwater Energy Center, our natural gas firing plant. This is a map of the 6 incentive districts. So as they are laid out on the project map, the first 2 phases that I'll talk a little bit about that the council is looking at approving is those more remote areas there at the northeast section of the land over by Jardo and Richmond Road. The lot 7 that's kind of carved out at the top, that is going to be the area for infrastructure, for power, and that is why it's cut out of the project. Just a little background on how we have this ability to offer what's called a tax incentive district. Is it's set up by our Oklahoma Local Development Act. So state law allows for these type of districts to exist. In that section 62 that's cited below, that goes a little bit more into detail how the state decided to set it up to attract data centers to the state. There is a 25-year option that is available, and the TID is a mechanism that allows the local taxing jurisdictions to work it out. They basically say, okay, if you want to have some kind of incentive, you all have to work it out, figure out how much of that incentive is going to be that you're willing to offer the company, and then you have a 25-year period that you can offer that incentive. And so I do like that about TIDs is that the difference between, you've heard the term TIF. A TIF is a tax increment financing district. So basically it's still a defined area of your town, and you say, we want to invest here, and we want to see want to capture those base values for those property taxes, and those increments can be reinvested into projects. And the city council has that authority. Of course, we always wanted to bring in taxing jurisdictions to make sure that they are for this type of incentive. But on this one, I really like because it gets all the taxing jurisdictions on board together. They all have to approve it. And so it's been a joy to work with, of course, the school and the Meridian, but also the county. And I also want to welcome Jason into his role. I'm glad Glenna brought him today. Jason, I've had the joy of meeting with him on multiple occasions about this project, and he takes his job very seriously. So I think we're all, we all should all be grateful that Jason is in his role now with the county. So yeah, the TID is ultimately decided on, I already mentioned that, by all taxing jurisdictions. Unlike a TIF, where the city council has that authority, the city council still is the governing body over it, but it requires all the taxing jurisdictions to approve. And for this project, the exemption is 100%. And so, of course, you say, well, why wouldn't a company want anything but 100%? Well, there actually is some advantages to the school districts and they're the biggest taxing jurisdiction of our ad valorem tax in the Payne County. And so when they do 100% exemption, they usually have to offer a pilot payment, a payment in lieu of tax. And so the amount that was offered to the taxing jurisdictions by the company and their attorneys was based on studying how much dollars per square foot on a facility industrial facility in the state of Oklahoma. So they looked at some of the top performing industrial facilities in the state. They took what that dollar per square foot of taxation was, applied it to the 300,000 square feet, and then made those offers to our kind of taxing jurisdictions. And the one reason the 100% exemption helps the school district is it goes straight to their general fund. Say they had a 70% exemption, usually 30 to 40% is about the percent of tax that these data centers are getting around the country. If they just say they did a 70% exemption and still allow 30% of the ad valorem tax to fall through to the school district, it would affect their state aid. It would affect the amount of funding that they get. And so it is advantageous for the 100% exemption and for the school district, and that money goes straight in their general fund and does not affect their state aid. Trying to move quick, so I'm gonna move quick through some of these slides. Stillwater Public Schools for the first phase per year will get $624,000. That is the pilot payment. That will increase by 1% per year. And then you can see what the breakout codes for Meridian Technology and Payne County Health, and there's the sum. Yeah, the phase 2, the only note to note on this slide is that phase 2 will mirror phase 1. Same type of revenue as you see here. So if 2 phases go online, which is very likely, 2 phases will develop, then you have $624,000, about almost $1.3 million going to the school district each year from this project. This is a kind of a running total of the amount you can see. In fact, SPS over the life of what the TID is about $17 to $18 million for phases 1 and 2. There also is in the agreement that has been made with the company is what's called a community betterment payment. When they did a kind of first look at what the city's current levies were when they were offering the same offer, or the proportional offer to the taxing jurisdictions, ours was like, as a city, was like $17,000. That was just like, think Fire Station 2, any other current levies that the city is getting. And so when we negotiated, the mayor and I and the company reps, we negotiated that payment for community betterment payments up to $132,000. In addition, what kind of the taxing jurisdictions had to kind of loosely agreed to. When I say taxing jurisdiction, it was one rep. They're very careful about quorum. And so it was maybe like one rep, they kind of said, this is how we've evaluated these pilot payments. and they kind of had a nod of, yeah, that seems reasonable. I really appreciate working with the mayor and our attorneys, and we were able to negotiate that dollar amount up and really kind of just establish goodwill with our taxing jurisdictions, but also because we wanted, more of a fair deal that we were comparing around the country to be put into Stillwater, those dollars to be put into Stillwater. Let's see, the other thing that we're going to talk about, I'll spend a few minutes talking about, is this, who's going to serve electric? When I sat down with Norman, when he said he was so disappointed about the project not moving forward because of the pandemic, he was immediately talking about the electric revenue. Obviously, we're electric utility. Stillwater Electric Utility helps fund a lot of the services that we provide here in the city of Stillwater through a transfer each year. And so we obviously rely on our electric revenue to get a lot of things done on the city. We can't live on just sales tax alone. And so this was going to be a great opportunity for the city to serve this site. And in full transparency, as our group was doing this due diligence this year, it came to our attention that OG&E was having conversations with the project company, and I honestly got upset on a call. I'd really gotten to know these folks from the company, and I was disappointed with their lack of transparency on that. And they let me have my little bit of a fit. And then they said, hey, I really think you need to evaluate this. We'll give you your time to evaluate this. And so we did. We hired our consultant that always helps us with our utility rates. We worked together with our electric department and GRDA to come up with what we could do as a rate to compete. And we realized that we are kind of bound by our own restrictions as a public power company, that we have to justify profits, right? We do cost of service studies to make sure that the electricity and the water that we provide to your homes is at our cost. And that cost can have some margin in there to cover capital improvements, but we can't be becoming rich as a city organization off the backs of our ratepayers. We can't do that. And so what we do have the ability to do as a city is we have a franchise fee. We have a franchise fee with CREC. We have a franchise fee already in place with OG&E when they serve Oklahoma State University. Every time they pay a bill to pay OG&E for that electricity at OSU, we get 3%. That's our franchise fee. So a franchise fee is a source of revenue for a city. And so when you look at the amount of load that a data center runs, 3% is a significant amount of electricity. And so when we were sitting there evaluating and with our rate consultant and doing a ton of study, it became clear that this was a great option for the city to look at. And so we I admitted I had made a little bit of a fit about them looking at OG&E, and now it become, I think for multiple reasons, is a great option for the company because of renewable options and other things, diversity that they want, and it becomes obviously a really good revenue source option for the city. And so I know we have representatives from OG&E here today to help talk a little bit more about that later. So, and I should have mentioned if it was on the slide. Yeah. So the franchise fee revenue is we've calculated to be about $2 million per phase. We think it will be as much as $2.25 million per phase per year. And so we have a cap that we agreed to, or that we will be agreeing to, $4.5 million. So you'll see that number for 2 phases. And again, the city is just looking at approving phases 1 and 2 for development. This is kind of the budget for the project plan. This includes all the franchise fees and community betterment payments. This is again for the city. This is not for our other taxing jurisdictions. And one great thing, another reason why the city has considered this franchise fee option for the project is that it goes into our general fund as well. But we didn't want it to just sit in the general fund and be kind of absorbed in departments, and we really can't put our hands on that revenue. So we decided as city leadership to dedicate it to important things that our city has had a difficult time funding. We've had a difficult time funding parks and our public spaces. We know that parks make such a difference in your town on just the quality of life for your citizens, but also for economic development and attracting new people to your community. We also know that funding the operations and those continued facility improvements is a big deal, and so that's why we want to dedicate a chunk of that revenue into these buckets that you see on the screen. Additionally, public infrastructure and economic development, we want to have that money available to help spur on future economic developments that we don't have to just lean on a TIF as our only mechanism. We want to have ability to have that money available if a big project like a convention center continues to develop, and be able to support it with quality infrastructure, really improve that district around a project like that and help it be something the whole community be proud of. And so that kind of is how that budget is set up. Let me hit real quick before I get to these frequently asked questions. One thing about the 2 phases and why that's important, that the city council, yes, they're looking at this tax document, the TID document for approval that allows the tax exemption for all 6 phases, but the 2 phases is all that's being considered right now for development. Now, we would love, if it's a great thing, which we think it will be a great partnership, we would love to see all 6 phases develop. It'd be great revenue. The school district wants all 6 to open tomorrow. We know that as a city, we've done a significant amount of research and looking at utilities, and they have too. The company has done a lot of, they have just an army of engineers working on projects like this. And they have admitted to us that there is an exponential cost factor going from 2 to 3. To build out phases 3 through 6 requires a significant amount of investment into our public infrastructure. And one thing to note, the city, just like on any development that comes in, or most, unless they're incentivized in some way, it is on the back of the developer to spend any improvements related to this site. So you might hear people saying, well, we're paving Richmond Road, when you see Richmond Road is going to be built out into a full, industrial grade road. No, the company's paying for every dollar of that. The company's paying for any turn lanes, any infrastructure that needs to be brought to that site. That is all on the back of the company and not our ratepayers. Another benefit to OG&E serving that site, and the reason why we do a franchise vote for the OG&E is because, well, it's set by state statute. So and that should be comforting to our citizens. It's not just someone in City Hall making a decision and allows some company to come into our territory, take some of our asset away from us. No, we are allowed to, or we are required to go to the vote of the people with a defined area. OG&E is allowed to bring electricity to that defined site. They cannot serve outside of it. They can only serve to that site. And just like they did with the OSU campus back in 2007. Here's some frequently asked questions, but the noise from the data centers, people have asked, what is the noise like? Well, the noise is, for industrial light, the average is 65 decibels. The company has told us that the facility is lower than that. When I talked about this well-known company building this whole campus or these data centers, they build high quality ones, very efficient, and they are not the ones that are in a lot of the articles people are reading. Those are facilities designed cheaply, built quickly for Bitcoining, data mining. Those operations have shorter lifespans, and they're built in a cheap way. And so this is not that type of facility that is being considered for the city of Stillwater. Water usage. The water usage is something that these facilities require for cooling, and there's a lot of misinformation out there on how much they're looking at. I had a citizen tell me that they were going to drain Kaw Lake. We currently, in our water system, for those who don't know, we get our community's water out of Kaw Lake currently. We have a pipeline that was built, Norman, 48 years ago or something. Yep. And it been an amazing resource for our community. We have 50 million gallons of water rights per day off of Kaw Lake. Kaw Lake is a unique reservoir. It has a big catchment area that brings in a lot of snow melt and stuff from the Rockies, and it tends to stay full. So even through some of the droughts we've had the last 2 decades, Kaw Lake continues to be a unique reservoir that stays full. Of our 50 MGD that we have on Kaw Lake, we currently average about 7 MGD a day. So we are pulling, less than 20% on average out of Kaw Lake that we are allowed. The peak day, our warmest, hottest day, everybody's watering their lawns. It is 14 MGD. And so we have capacity in what we pull from Kaw. The rough number, it's an estimate, about 2.7 MGD is going to be considered in the Economic Development Agreement. So on November 4th, we're going to have our second public hearing. We hopefully will have the EDA completed by then. That EDA will be considered for just the first 2 phases, and the company knows there will be a max number of amount of water that they can pull for those first 2 phases, and they will design their 2 phases to use that amount, or that they know that is their max amount. That's not what they pull every day, but on their hottest day, or when it's hot and they need the most water, they know that is their max pool. We currently have approximately 3.14 MGD available in that zone, and that's how we look at it as a city, is we say how much water capacity do we have in this zone. And so the company is not taking that full capacity. They're allowing it for other industries to move in that need to, but they are willing to design their 2 facilities within that boundary of approximately 2.7 MGD. So that shows you that we're not even getting close to our max water pool from Kaw Lake. So that is the answer on water usage. Electric usage, we've gone a lot into that. We have this opportunity to allow OG&E to serve the site. It's up to our voters on if they will allow it, much like they allowed OG&E to serve Oklahoma State University. It will not, and there's a lot of misinformation out there that it's going to raise our rates, it's going to be connected to our grid. That's going to cause distribution issues. That is not correct. If OG&E serves it, it will not be connected to our grid and will not affect our utility rates in any way in the city of Stillwater. Bit mining first data center, I kind of already went into that. This is a hyperscale data center, high quality project built by the end user, not by just like a venture company. And then the company, there has been some confusion on, there's a Kipper AI out there. No, this Kipper LLC is just kind of it's a subsidiary kind of name made by the company just basically to keep their name from being public. And that is, a lot of people ask, like, why can't they just tell us who they are? That's the way they operate. It's like any private entity coming to town, they like to wait until all the land development, every line has been signed, every agreement has been signed, and until they make that announcement. Knowing the representatives, they have told us they're very excited. They're excited to be in Stillwater. They're excited to partner with Oklahoma State University and our community, and they are excited to have that press release go out, but they just are waiting until that time when every thing has been off their checklist to do. Some of the project benefits, they're going to be a new community partner, a well-known Fortune 100 company in Stillwater, one of the larger economic development projects to ever hit the state. It'll be a great benefit to OSU, Meridian Tech, the high school, the county. It's going to just really, I think, rise the tide, that can lift all the ships around here. I know that's kind of a cheesy saying, but it is true. When you do land an economic development project like this, the amount of permanent jobs is not extremely high, about 30 to 36 high-paying permanent jobs per building per phase. And some people say, well, that's a lot of investment for just 30 jobs for that building. Well, number one, if we had that land fully built out at 3 or 4 tire shops or tire manufacturers, we'd have a hard time filling that. We don't have the workforce to fill that overnight. And so in order to have a project like this that is something that we can sustain And that's really important in economic development, is making sure what you attract to your town is something that can be sustained. We don't want empty buildings. Let's see, of course, I talked about the pilot payments, the revenue that's going to go to the taxing jurisdictions. There's going to be great sales tax collection on the construction materials, and on the electric franchise fee, the possibility if voters approve, that money, that about $2.25 million, can be used per year, per phase, for the things like we talked about: public parks, public facilities, amenities, and future economic development. And so it's a great benefit to our community, and that's why we wanted that revenue going to something that citizens can put their hands on and actually see and enjoy. Let's see. Yeah, I mentioned, I may have not highlighted this enough, but like, this company is a well-known, has the financial means to help us on infrastructure improvement. So let's say they want to develop phases 3 through 6, and they know that there needs to be this new midstream pump station on Caw Lake that will actually allow our million gallons per day to increase in our ability to treat that much more water. That is a bottleneck right now with our current system, is that we can only pull about 18, 19 MGD a day if we were really pumping efficiently all our pumps. And so we do know that we need a mid-level pump station, and that project is way down the road for us, because we're trying to do the McMurtry pipeline, a backup pipeline with Lake McMurtry. We're doing all of these improvements to our water treatment plant, and so this would be something that they may accelerate because they have the means to say, okay, we're gonna pay for a significant part of this project, and we would come in and say, okay, that has this percent of city benefit, so we'll participate this much. And now a project that really costs millions and millions of dollars is now not all on the back of our ratepayers. So that's another great advantage to this project. SEU will serve all construction power, so Stillwater Electric will serve the construction power and the mid-level voltage to the site. So think all the security lighting, office lighting, some of the just infrastructure within the building, in the campus, we will be serving the electricity to. It's just when those servers turn on, that where a lot of electricity is coming through, that is where the OG&E will potentially serve. The process, and my last slide here is the process, is we have gone through TIF review committee. That is where the project plan review committee, that is where all taxing jurisdictions got to sit and review the plan. We also had 3 citizens that they selected that got to sit on that plan. It was Aaron Wilson, Matt Solons, and Pat Darlington were our 3 citizens that sat in there with the taxing jurisdictions. They approved it unanimously. The Planning Commission then reviewed it for its conformance to our comprehensive plan and the zoning. They looked at the zoning and unanimously recommended approval. We've had the 2 public hearings, the one last Monday and the one upcoming on November 4th. And then the City Council will consider approving the TID document, the tax incentive document, and the EDA, the Economic Development Agreement document, in November. And then within 60 days of council approval, the taxing entities, the school board, the county, Meridian Tech, and Payne County Health will all have an opportunity to approve the agreement. That is it, and I'm sorry to not leave you more time to talk about the OG&E, but you want to go ahead and just talk briefly, and then we can answer any questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kimberlee Adams, and I'm with OG&E, and what an exciting project for Stillwater, and as well, OG&E is looking forward to partnering with you all on this project. I have just a couple of key points that Brady mentioned I would just really like to emphasize to you. On the sheet at your table, you'll see a sample of the ballot, and the first line there says something like, shall a franchise agreement be approved? I want to make sure everybody understands, when you think franchise agreement, you think like business franchise, and that's not what this is. As Brady mentioned, our founding fathers wanted citizens to have a voice in what goes in their easements and rights of way. So that is why franchise agreements have to go to a vote of the people. And for us to power this project, we will need to access easements and rights of way to bring in infrastructure, electrical lines, and things like that. So please keep in mind, it's not a vote of one thing or the other. This is not, not voting between choices. Has nothing to do with your rates at all. Has nothing to do with taxes at all. What does it do? It is simply allowing us to access the easements and allow us to build our infrastructure to power this facility. So that, as you're out talking with your friends and family about this, I wish we would call it something else besides a franchise agreement, but that's what we have been given with since statehood. And so if you could maybe just help us educate people that by voting no, if anyone would vote no, all you're doing is hurting yourself, because it's not an option to vote between different providers. The Stillwater electrical system will stay exactly as it is and not be impacted by this at all. So that's the only point I really would like to emphasize. I'll hang around afterwards. I know you're short on time, but thank you for just allowing me that little bit, and be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
You mentioned it gives you the right for access easements and things like that. Does that mean if there's not an existing easement that you may go through that piece of property and obtain that easement somehow? Or will you pay for that easement? Or if the landowner does not want to give an easement across that property, I experienced this with a lot of the pipelines that come across properties.
I've not seen.
I can't answer that. That's a great question, but my understanding was they would be utilizing a lot of already existing right-of-ways.
Yeah,
That's my understanding as well.
That's their intent, but
Yeah.
it gives them the right to go ahead and create an easement, it appears to me.
In what way? What do you mean? It gives them a right to?
Well, it says to obtain easements in however matter they choose.
Yeah.
It is on here.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know that I can give you a great answer on that. I can definitely ask some more information, and a lot of that will be on OG&E too. But we'll see what we can answer on that for sure.
What I can answer part of that question is that if anything is within the area that we are covering to bring in the power, that easement should, I believe, already be in place with the city of Stillwater. But as Brady mentioned, please let me get back to you with the exact details on that.
Yeah, it's my understanding that they were using existing right-of-way within the city of Stillwater.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So is my understanding correct? Sorry. Well, see if my understanding is correct. The big requirement for power, for large amounts of power that we can't pull from the current grid, the reason for that is because of the supercooling required for these supercomputers that data centers will use. I know you have to, if they're going to be using supercomputers, you have to cool those down to, they have to be supercooled, and those are power intensive. Is that the reason the power draw is so large?
Well, you're correct, except it's the power required to run those processing units, and it's the water that does the cooling. It's water cooling systems. Yeah, so it's the power to make those servers keep spinning the data, and it's the water cooling that requires to take away that heat. So that's why the
I wouldn't think that water would be enough to get into the supercooling region. That's why I asked.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, one more question. You mentioned other potential infrastructure changes that the company would support and provide, and Richmond Road widening to 4 lanes. What portion of Richmond Road would be included in that?
Okay, so it would be the area from Perkins Road to Jardo. And I don't know, does that sheet specify 4 lanes? No, I don't think it's going to be 4 lanes. I think it's going to be 2.
Yeah, I've got a question. I think this is a great idea. It's a great project, pretty exciting. The only concern that I have as a happy-go-lucky citizen of Stillwater, but also a resident who lives right next to this development, the only thing that concerns me is that noise issue. I know you had said 65 decibels. I haven't looked it up what that would compare to. I mean, I know that's not a rock concert. I know it's pretty low.
Yeah.
But what kind of guarantee is going to be provided for us that live right there next to it? You know, they say 60, 65, or it's less than 65. What happens? We get down the road and it's not that, and
Yeah.
then we're all suffering.
Yeah, we have nuisance ordinances, number one, that we can enforce in the city of Stillwater. The 65 decibels is, as Councilor Harden, I haven't verified this, but at our public hearing on Monday night, Councilor Harden said that he looked it up, and it's about what you would hear in your car at about 65 miles an hour. And again, that's at the point of the building. And so as you dissipate, or as the sound dissipates as you get further away from the building, that would be much less. They are planning to leave as many trees as they can on site to have that blockage. And do you live in Parkview Estates or that area, or to the north? Tower Park, great. So as you can see on the map, those first two phases are the ones being approved, and those are the furthest from residential areas. And in a way, it is, kind of can be peace of mind, or a pilot that, hey, say these two develop, we have a big brand partner that comes to town. But you know what? We don't really need more data centers in Stillwater. It would be the choice of future city councils, and so their voice could still be heard before 3, 4, 5, and 6 develop. So that is kind of a nice benefit. I didn't emphasize that enough.
Thank you.